Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Kerfuffle webinar with the delightful Nelly here from our division. How are you, Nelly?
Good morning, everyone. I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm not nearly as hot as I was yesterday, so that's all good. Good start.
That's I was at the tennis yesterday, networking. So you're lucky I didn't look like I came out of Chernobyl, to be honest. But anyway. Yes. Congratulations, because of course what we're here today celebrating as much as anything is the fact that it's your 20th anniversary as Art Division, doing fantastic websites and marketing for digital marketing for agents. So congratulations.
Indeed. Yes, thank you very much. I mean, 20 years is a very long time. It takes us all the way back to 2001, which is when I started the business. It was actually on the 11th of July, to be exact, when we registered the company. And yes, so much has changed since, because originally when the company started, we were a web design company. Yeah. We used to build super basic websites, initially in HTML, and at the time, it was sort of like a glorified online brochure. So typically the websites would be 4 or 5 pages, a little bit about the company, a few pictures here and there, contact details. And what people used to do is they would go networking. They'll hand their business cards around the room, and then on the business card you'll have the website. So if you want to learn more, this is what people do. They'll then punch in the URL and then kind of read a bit more. And so much has changed since. So obviously from a website all the way through how the browsers operate and devices and all kinds of different things.
I was going to say, just take us through a few of the most obvious ones there that that you feel have been absolutely game changing in the way that the whole thing's developed.
I mean, obviously, a lot has changed from a technology point of view. So if you think about when was the first iPhone or smartphone used, that's roughly about 10 years ago. And so that made a massive change to how marketing is done now and basically how people consume information. So prior to the smartphone devices, most things were done on desktop computers. And obviously what we used to design and build at the time was mostly designed for desktop environment. One of the biggest shifts, both from a business perspective, from our division's perspective, but also from how businesses would do business between each other, is because of that technology. So when the mobile phones took over the number of visitors that one would get to their website from a mobile device versus a desktop device, was basically the moment when our division shifted from predominantly offering websites to offering digital marketing, and the websites being complementary to the digital marketing part of the business. Also from a property perspective, 20 years ago, the core of how negotiators used to do business would be probably mostly hitting the phones and doing leaflet drops. And you would walk past a high street estate agency and you'll have those piles of magazines, newspapers with, all their properties for sale or for let, so people would take a copy of that. That was the thing. Networking was major. I mean, we used to go to several BNI groups back then. Then you'll have all the local businesses at the BNI. Only 10 years after that, because of the smart devices, because of the changes in technology, so much changed. I mean, Rightmove obviously is a major player. About 10 years ago, they launched their mobile app, which became extremely popular for them. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why, most property searches start from a mobile device and, on the portals. But from our point of view, the biggest shift was going from being predominantly a web design agency, and we used to do branding as well at the time. We no longer do that in-house, to actually being a digital marketing agency with our website department as being a complementary arm to the digital marketing. And the reason why is because websites went from being glorified digital brochures to actually something that is there to work really hard for a business to generate leads. So it's a completely different purpose of why you have a website to begin with.
So would you say that mobile first is the biggest change?
Well, obviously, we all as businesses need to follow the consumer behavior. And so if people like to consume information from their mobile phones, then you have to consider how you can present that information in the best possible way. So from a state and letting agency's point of view, if you actually check your analytics data, you'll find that over 50, sometimes 60% of the visitors come from mobile devices. Now, there's a caveat to that because it varies depending on where you're placed. So we find that in central London, the estate agents that are selling sort of high-end properties, prime properties, there are more people using desktop devices than in areas further out. So £1 million plus type properties, they tend to still attract visitors from the desktop way. And also from a calls to actions point of view, we're finding that those would attract more phone calls. Well, as properties that are below the £1 million pound mark, you'll find that definitely you have more visitors coming from mobile devices and more inquiries are being done via things like forms and stuff like that versus phone calls. So really, what I'm trying to say is that don't just assume that because people use mobile phone that for you that's the driver. You really need to assess and analyze your data, see where you are, see who your consumer is, how they want to consume information, sort of like go from there. But yeah, mobile phones are here to stay, and I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've seen over the past 10 years with regards to what we do as a business, and obviously the change in how we do business between each other.
So clearly there's been a huge amount of change that you'd expect. What's stayed the same? What are the constants that have happened from when you started that are still really important regarding web design?
Yeah, I mean, we all talk about business to consumer, business to business as a form of communication, but I'm a great believer that really it's a human to human communication. And so although the devices have changed, although technology has changed, what hasn't changed is the fact that we are people and we like to communicate with people that we like, right? So likability and building those relationships between humans has always been there. So 20 years ago, I built the business on the basis of networking. I used to go at least once, if not twice a week, to a different networking group. And I would spend quite a lot of my time doing face-to-face meetings and, meeting people either at their office, our office, coffee shops and whatever. All of that has now shifted to online communication. So I spend my days on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams or on LinkedIn. But the fundamental principle of what it is that we're doing is we're communicating. And it's that ability to form those relationships, human to human relationships, have always been there and will always remain. It's just what's changed is the medium that we use to communicate.
What was apart from being hugely successful, what was the vision you set out with at the beginning when you set up Art Division? What did you want to achieve, and have you met your goals when you set back, or have they just changed over time?
Oh, they definitely have changed. I wish I could say that when I was 23, when I set up the business, I had this massive vision and plan. To be fair, it all happened, and I think I probably...
Nelly, the key is just to pretend that was how you always intended it.
Yes, exactly. I think that when you're that young, you don't really have much fear of what could go wrong because you haven't experienced it yet. So I basically went all in, and I was super excited about the fact that I have the opportunity to build something that's mine and call it mine and etc. I mean, obviously I had to overcome lots of hurdles. And I had to learn on the job rather than on someone else's expense. I mean, usually what I would advise others to do, how much experience. My vision really at first was really to have a business that I was enjoying, and I had the freedom to do what I wanted to do, and it was just exciting to be there, to do those things, to have the opportunities. If I were to look back and what I've achieved, I mean, a lot has changed throughout the years because as you grow and as you get more clients and as you start hiring staff, you're faced with different kind of hurdles. So I've had a lot of coaching and training and mentoring throughout the years. And I think that if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm forever grateful for all those people that have helped me throughout the way. And, I continue to have coaching and mentoring, and I continue to work with people that are better than me, that are more clever than me, so that they can guide me and help me to move to the next level. So yeah, I think that right now I have a vision and I have a direction. Back then, it probably wasn't as clear as a direction, but nevertheless, it was a great learning curve.
You mentioned their enjoyment, which I think, unsurprisingly, I think is really important. Do you still enjoy it just as much, or is it a harder slog now than it used to be?
That's a very interesting question, because I don't have the energy I used to have then. I've had 14-hour days back then, and it wouldn't faze me. Obviously now I am a bit more stingy with my personal time, and I feel that success.
You've got to have a fiesta every now and again. Or
that's exactly. And I just feel that success is measured not just in how many hours you work on the business or in the business, but how many hours you don't work, and having that kind of balance, if you like. So yeah, the enthusiasm is there. I'm one of those ideas people that is constantly motivated by change. So this is the reason why I'm in this industry, because change is inevitable and it's constant and it's non-stop. But at the same time, it motivates me to know that I have a very good team around me. And if I take a day off, things are not going to stop. The guys are there to do their job, and they're brilliant. They're very, very good at what they do. So yeah, it's a different level of maturity, I guess.
Well, that's one of the key things, isn't it? When it changes from it all being about you as a business to being able to, as you say, you take the day off here and now, and not everything stops. That's really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think that businesses grow in phases, and so you need to kind of go through each phase. You need to feel the pain in each of those phases to learn from that, to then be able to grow into the next phase. But one of the key things that I've learned throughout all of that and the journey is that your team is absolutely key. If I've known that at the start, I probably would have invested more time in learning how to recruit the right people, how to plan what kind of people I need to help me grow the business. And I probably would have been where I am now sooner rather than later. It would have taken me less time, if you like, because it's those people that make things happen. And I reckon for every business out there, and including estate and letting agents, who is within your team makes a massive difference to where your business is going to go in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. So can I just ask you a question, just in terms of, it seems to me there's been an explosion of, let's just call them techies, or developers and everything else out there. Does that make your job easier that there's more talent to go after, or is it harder?
Well, my job personally is not in development, so my job is generally in strategy and business, and sort of the marketing strategy side of things. But to be fair, again, from a hiring developers perspective, few years ago, we took a decision to specialize in WordPress. And throughout the years, we've had various of different programmers with different skills. And obviously, again, technology changed and continues to change. But one of the biggest pain points we've had a few years ago is that every developer that would join the business would have their own experience, their own skill set, and they will have their own ways of doing things. And then you basically used to end up with websites that are based on what the skill set of the programmer is, rather than what we wanted as a framework. Yeah. So with kind of the expansion of WordPress and how WordPress became probably one of the leading content management systems, open source content management systems out there, we took a decision to specialize in WordPress and only to hire programmers that specialize in WordPress. That made a massive difference, and it helped us grow in a much easier way, because it doesn't really matter who the programmers are, because we're using the same platform, the same framework, and what we need is to hire people that know that framework and support the framework, rather than having people that are constantly moving the business in the direction they feel based on their skill set. So that's that's a massive change. And again, that couldn't have happened 10 or 15 years ago because WordPress didn't exist in its format that it's now. And so that was an evolution. And I think that probably many web design businesses out there would nod their heads now, thinking, "Yeah, I was there as well. I feel the pain." Yeah. So I think that's probably a massive change within the tech industry. Is it easier? Of course, it's easier to find people that specialize in WordPress in particular. So it makes it safer both for us as a business, but also our clients, not to feel like if we lose a key programmer that's it, their websites can't be supported, sort of thing. So
I remember that distinctly. When I first started in the CRM space, a few of them wrote in some really vague and weird and wonderful dev languages, and there was literally a handful of people who could code in it. And the weakness of that model, as you highlighted there, is if one of them goes under a bus or leaves or whatever else, the whole company is exposed. I suppose that advantage you've got there, like WordPress, or dare I say even the likes of Salesforce and the CRM, there are so many people out there now, you're never going to be left with anything other than a huge choice of talent to go after, are you?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that this also attracts people to decide to specialize in something that they know it's a career path. Because WordPress is now about maybe 30% of all the websites out there in the world are built in WordPress. So that's a lot of websites. And all of those websites will require programmers and people to support them, to update them. And there's going to be a lot of clients that would require new websites built forward. So I would recommend to agents, if you are looking for something that is molded to your needs, to actually go for an open source platform rather than something so bespoke and unique that you can't really change and adapt.
And would it be fair to say, Nelly, that because you've got that as well, WordPress, of course, just has loads and loads of kind of out-of-the-box integrations, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's another advantage of why we chose WordPress, is because we felt that, with every new client and any new request, we had to literally start from zero. So we would plan and then code whatever module that they would require. WordPress is a modular system. And so when someone requires something, 9 out of 10, this is already coded, it's already created. And what you do is you just take it, you install it, and it works. And so this saves a lot of money, it saves a lot of time, and the end result is there for the client to actually reap the benefits of that functionality.
More choice.
There is more choice, absolutely. And that's the thing, it's websites back then were online brochures, and that was their function. Websites today need to work really hard to generate businesses leads and obviously convert those leads into clients and instructions, etc. But things change very often, and so what you've got today might not be suitable for what the market needs in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time. So by investing in a website that is not very flexible means that you either have to rebuild your website every 2 years, for example, or it will cost you thousands of pounds in development costs to build those extras that you'll require. The likes of WordPress open source platforms, because a lot of things are pre-made and because they're driven, basically a lot of programmers are developing those things and are offering them. Some are free, some are paid, but even if they're paid, they're not very expensive. You're able to adapt and grow and mold your website as the market demands it from you. So it is just a much better long-term solution for businesses, and especially estate and letting agents, because obviously this is the area we specialize in. So all of our websites are built for estate and letting agents. So I can see how much the functionality has changed over the past few years. I mean, one of the things that we're working on at the moment is speed. And this is driven again based on Google's requirements, because one of
they're getting very tight on that, aren't they, Nelly? In terms
yes, that's exactly it. So I mean, again, Google is the monster we all have to please, because we all want to rank our websites in the Google results page. So if you want to play that game, you have to have a mobile responsive website, because if you don't, your website will not be ranking on the mobile device, because Google doesn't like to give poor user experience to their customers. And speed is something that very recently they launched yet another algorithm update, which obviously, if your site is not fast enough, it will start going further down the ranking. So it's a very, very important aspect that you need to address. Now, if you have a site that was built in a bespoke code, to actually improve the speed of a site will take weeks and weeks of work and thousands of pounds worth of development cost. Yeah. With WordPress, again, there are plugins that allow speed optimization, things like caching. And by installing that and personalizing the settings, you immediately can improve the speeds. We went from, some websites, for example, our Google speed test was, say, in the region of 30, 40, which is pretty poor, all the way to 90 to almost 100. Yeah. We're rolling out all kinds of updates to all of our websites, and that's going to happen over the next week or two. And so all of our websites by default will have this speed optimization. And that's something that essentially is not going to cost a penny to any of our clients. We're not charging extra for that. It's something that we do as part of our maintenance. And that's the bit that WordPress allows us to do, is that there are solutions out there which can be rolled and applied to any website that's in WordPress. And it's either going to be for very little investment from the client or no investment if they're on some sort of maintenance plan.
So those kind of hygiene elements that are obviously to an agent might seem a little bit boring, but they're essentials, aren't they? Because as we said, without that, you don't get your Google optimization, your bounce rates, the classic experience of somebody coming to your website, something doesn't happen instantaneously. So they'd say, I'm out of here, because famously people's attention spans are shorter and shorter and less tolerant of that speed element, aren't they?
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is because really traditionally the speed is most affected on mobile devices, especially if you're not using Wi-Fi, but if you're using sort of 3G connection. And so you're absolutely right. People don't have the time and the patience nowadays to wait for slow pages to load to find the information. They want to click quickly in and out and consume and take action, because let's face it, people don't go to estate agent websites because that's a hobby or that's something they enjoy doing. They have a particular intent. They either want to sell, they want to buy, they want to, rent, or they want to let, and they're looking for the right partner to do that with. And so you're going to this website in order to either find their information, read a bit more, and then take further action, look at the properties. If this is slow, it's easier to go back and start your search again and find someone else than it is to persevere with that kind of website. So it's crucial for agents to pay attention to things like that. Mm. But what I'm finding is that obviously it's down to what matters to them. I often explain things by kind of giving the comparison with cars, because it seems, especially the male side of the clients, tend to understand cars better than websites, But you wouldn't go to a Formula One race with a Skoda when you're up against everyone else that is with the fast cars. You're just not going to win that race, As much as it's a car, it still will take you from A to B. It's not fit for purpose. You got to really get the right side for the right purpose. That if you want an online brochure, by all means get some sort of cheap template that's designed to work as an online brochure. But if you're expecting your website to generate you leads, if you're expecting to rank in Google organically, if you're running paid campaigns through AdWords or through Facebook, you need to have a website that allows that flexibility, allows your marketing agency, for example, to do A/B split tests, to create landing pages very quickly, to change things on those pages very quickly. And what I'm finding again with those websites that don't have that flexibility is things take so long. So you just want to change a button just to experiment, for example, whether a green button or a red button converts better. Sometimes through communication, this could take 2 weeks for someone to take action. And in marketing terms, that's not good enough, because you need to change things quickly, test quickly, to then be able to reap the benefits. You can't wait that long for things like that.
And as we understand it, Ellie, that's the whole element and benefit of something like WordPress, which essentially exposes the CMS, the content management system part of it, through the agent themselves, don't they? So they don't have to go via yourselves to change things like that.
Well, yes, if you're referring to changing things like pictures and text, right? That's absolutely correct. Where it becomes a little bit more technical is if you want to change certain modules or elements within the page that are not possible for the client. So I mean, that's a bit like you're saying, well, you could sell your own house. Of course, I can take my own pictures and I can upload them onto some sort of portal myself, and I can do the viewings myself. I can. But there's certain things that someone who does that for a living will do better for you. So it's a fine balance. Upload your own blogs, yes, by all means, but also learn how to optimize your pictures correctly, how to choose the right pictures, how to apply the right calls to actions within the blogs. Don't just plonk text and expect that that's good enough. It's not. No longer. People expect more. And I see time and time again, literally that bare minimum effort put into sites, which then obviously give the very bad user experience. So I think, as much as we have all that flexibility, it still requires a little bit of TLC from people, so.
So keep, the structure, it's changing buttons and the way the website, that's for you, the experts, it's content and images. You could do that yourself, basically.
Yes, of course. We have clients who literally make any changes themselves, and we have clients who want us to do all the changes because they're too busy. So it really depends. Depends on whether you want to spend the time doing it, you want to spend your time doing the sales and the lettings and managing your portfolio of properties, and you want someone else to help you. But that's the beauty of WordPress. You have the choice. And the choice is yours, and you can change your mind. If you're too busy, you can have someone to help you, and if you're not too busy and you want to save on the money, you can do it yourself. But just as long as you obviously understand what you need to do and how to do it, so that it's all with your perfect and a persona you're looking to attract in mind, and with your goals in mind.
Got you. By the way, I loved you. You could have spoken to any other male in this industry, and that car analogy would have worked. But of course, I drive a hairdresser's car, so it was lost on me.
You're obviously not into Formula One then.
Yeah, I have no idea. Although I look like I changed the tyres, that's not what so let me just go back to a point you mentioned before. Just because that speed element is now so, it's always been vital, but it's never more important now. How important is it to get your call to actions, your CTAs right, prominent on the various pages? How do you advise agents on that? Clearly, things like don't have too many CTAs is best practice, isn't it? Are there any other things you can advise agents just on that central aspect of this?
Yes, we tend to start with planning their goals first and looking at the persona they're looking to attract. And so what agents tend to do is they tend to obviously focus on themselves a bit more rather than think about, well, who is my customer? So if you're looking to attract more vendors, for example, think about what they are interested in, what kind of help do they need, because there are different types of vendors. There are first-time sellers. There are growing families who are looking for the next bigger property. There are people approaching retirement age, looking to downsize. All of those segments of the sort of the vendor side of things requires different actions and different type of help. And so the content on the page should be structured according to the personas you're looking to attract, and the calls to action need to work alongside that. So what agents tend to do is they basically have either a book evaluation, a call to action. Many have instant valuation call to action. Obviously, you have a phone number. And that's pretty much it. And this is what they put on every single page. And sort of the instant valuation, because you have the tool, let's just put it everywhere. But the thing is, you've got to consider whether the page you're putting it on is the relevant page. Is that the next logical progression? So if I'm reading about your team, is booking an instant valuation the next logical progression?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
Right. So calls to action, you're absolutely right. First of all, you shouldn't be putting every single call to action you can come up with. Less is more, but also consider it based on the persona and what page are they on, and what is the next logical progression from that page. So that's probably the best way to think about those calls to actions.
I love that angle. It makes perfect sense. Thinking through what are you trying to achieve before you just plonk the button on there, which is a classic. I mean, you look at it, they some of them just keep the same CTA on every single page, don't they?
Yeah, because I mean that's exactly where I'm referring back to sort of online brochures, because when you go to a Cheap and Cheerful type website, that is designed and built to be sold to a number of people on a conveyor belt approach. They don't have that flexibility to say, well, on this page, we're going to have this, and on that page. No, you get what you're given. And it's easier to put the same call to action on all pages and just put your text and make any further changes. And if that's what you want, and if that's what you're expecting from the site, that's fine. But, again, if you're saying, well, I want the website that will generate me leads, you got to consider who is the person that you're looking to attract and what do you want them to do, and then structure it accordingly. So you can't have the same pages and the same call to action throughout. It just makes no sense. It's not good user experience.
Okay.
So
Something you said just there has just been ringing in my ears a little bit, and I was just thinking about whether I thought it was true or not. You said that people don't go to your website for fun. Do you not think there is a demographic of people that do, that phrase property porn? They love looking at property. Do you think that is what you're saying? That's probably done more on the portals rather than on an agent's own website. Are you saying when they go to an agent's website, they're much more deliberate in what they're intending to do?
Well, generally, if you think about sort of like the reasons why someone would go onto an estate agent website, and you can look at the journey as well. People start with their so-called research phase. Yep. So I am considering selling my property at some point. And because I'm considering, I'm probably now starting to listen more about what's the market doing. I'm checking perhaps other properties on the market to see what price I should expect for my property. I'm starting to read articles about when is the best time to sell, probably more about sales progression, stamp duty, all kinds of things like this. This is the research phase, and this is where people will end up on your blog articles and will consume blogs. But that's because they have a particular intent, right? I wouldn't sort of wake up one day and think, oh, I know what, I'm bored, I'm going to go on to an estate agent website. That's never going to happen. But it can happen if I'm into music, into fashion, into art, so it's a different sort of intent. So this is why with estate agent, everything should start with your buyer's persona you're looking to attract. That's your starting point. Who are you looking to attract with your website? Then you structure your content to ensure that those people have the best possible journey on your website. So blogs, yes, they are for that research sort of phase. Once I move on to my next phase of the journey where I'm thinking, right, now I've decided I am going to put my property on the market, I will sell, then I'm going to start researching which estate agent am I going to invite to my house. Is it this one? Is it this one? Or is it this one? In which case, at that point, the kind of content I'll be looking at is maybe social proof, case studies. Are the Google reviews 5 stars? Are people complaining from this agent or that agent? And based on this type of content, I will decide which 3 perhaps I will invite to my house. So you can see that the content on the website is very much about the journey and which phase of the journey the customer is in. But you need to have it all. You need to have the research phase type content. You need to have, that's called the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, which is where I'm researching the different agents. And then bottom of the funnel is where you have the calls to action, such as book evaluation, book a consultation. So you're trying to progress them to actually take action and sort of go to their home to value the property and hopefully get the instruction. So
Would you agree that one of the largest challenges that agents have is actually that creation of the content, fill all these different parts of the funnel? It strikes me that they go into it with all the right ideas and everything else, and they might start off with a huge amount of really vibrant content, but that struggle to keep it up over time becomes really quite challenging for them.
Yes, I 100% agree that that's the case, but one of the main reasons why that's the case is because they don't start with strategy planning. They start with, I need a blog, and I'm going to start blogging, and then, oh, it's June, what shall I write about? And then they put a blog together, right? Well, as the right way to do it is you plan your 12-month content calendar, and so you don't act on, oh my God, I haven't put my blog up, what shall I blog about? You actually think, all right, who am I looking to attract? First-time sellers. What kind of content would first-time sellers like to read? Then you do a bit of research, and then you plan your topics for the whole year, and you put them into content calendar, and you either write the copy yourself or you have a copywriter that writes it for you, and that copywriter has deadlines. And so it's a production line. So we write a lot of content for our clients, and we pre-plan things at least 1, sometimes 2 months in advance, in terms of, we have obviously our topics are pre-planned for several months in advance, but then we have briefs for each blog article. Then the copywriters write them a month in advance, and then we have someone who uploads them again and schedules them. So it's not last minute and it's not a panic. And we typically, for agents, we write between 2 and 4 blog articles per month. So 1 a week is the kind of typical.
That's a really nice constant level of, it keeps it in the face, not too much. It's not like verbal diarrhea, is it though? But that's such a useful service for agents, isn't it, really? Because
it is, yes.
You can have the best looking website in the world, but if it's not staying topical, if it's not keeping you updated, where's the stickiness?
Yes, but also that's the thing, is that people like to engage with content that is good, that's quality, that gives them value and some sort of benefit. And so those articles, they shouldn't be your 300 to 500 words that you've written in 5 minutes. They do take time. They have to be a bit more in-depth. And really, ideally, in most cases, those should be the so-called evergreen type articles. So if your persona is first-time sellers, a first-time seller in 2021 and a first-time seller in 2022 would probably have the same problems. So nothing stops you to use that blog article for several years to come by resurfacing and just updating it every year, for example. So investment in good articles that are with your persona in mind is a long-term investment. It's going to give you benefits and attract your customers for years to come. We have clients who we've written articles for 3-4 years ago, and they still generate in the thousands visitors to their website every single month, again and again and again and again. We've written articles like 2-3-4 years ago. And that's the beauty of it.
So they can just sit there relaxed that this calendar's going to be full of vibrant, interesting stuff. But of course, on the back of that, there's nothing to stop them if something topical changes, like an extension to stamp duty or whatever it is, that they can just jump in with literally a news now topic.
Yes, absolutely. And we actually, those type of articles we call commentary style articles, which are equally very, very good. But with those articles, they're great for social sharing and email campaigns as well, your nurturing campaigns, because as you say, for example, stamp duty changes. When that happens, it's topical right now. You share it on social media, you share it with your email list. Once that news is out there, it's no longer new. It's like an old newspaper. No one goes back to read last week's newspaper. It's old, right? It's news that's gone. And that's the same with those commentary style articles. And as long as you treat them as such and you know what their purpose is, the expectation should be that they're short-lived, that they're not something that next year, same time, you can reuse the same commentary. No, it's gone. And often we actually try and cleanse those. So sometimes we remove those articles from the site because it clogs up. If you've been doing blogging for years, you might end up with 200, 300, 400, 500 blogs. A lot of those have no SEO value and actually are dragging the site down in a way. So it's nice to do a cleansing exercise every so often with those type of articles. Whereas the evergreen are evergreen. They stay there and you'll get the benefit. So you need to have a mix. You need to talk about the market and the facts and figures and the graphs and all that sort of stuff. And you also need to cover topical stuff like stamp duty and everything else that's relevant. And you also need to consider your persona and talk about the things that matter to your persona. That is also evergreen.
But all of this is being supported by you just to give them a steer in the right direction.
Yes, as part of our marketing campaigns, this is part of our content marketing. So we would plan, write, publish, and distribute those blog articles. Obviously, the majority of them are there for ranking purposes, also for social sharing and for our email nurturing campaign. So they work really well, but they are very much top of the funnel. And again, what you'll find is that probably around 80% of your visitors on your website are in that research phase. So that's a lot. That's awful lot of.
It is. Is this a classic example here that this has changed in time? I guess you didn't do this level of content revision 20 years ago.
That's exactly. We didn't do any content 20 years ago. To be fair, that's the thing, is that back then everything was an online brochure type thing, and obviously as technology progressed, you would start creating sort of features and gimmicks, and movements on the pages, and that was the exciting thing, when Flash came and you could do things that move, and that was the thing.
And it wouldn't work on half your browsers.
And you wouldn't work out exactly that. And, you do things for the sake of doing them because it just looks cool. But nowadays, really, that's my personal opinion, but you're better off investing in a practical site that is flexible enough that will allow you to grow, and then putting most of your money into your marketing than putting thousands and thousands of pounds into a fancy website that you never update and change.
I think that's one of the most important things I've heard from anybody, Nelly, on here. Yeah, focus that money, as you just highlighted, on that on the marketing element, on being different, on getting your message across, rather than the looking good, feeling good kind of approach, isn't it?
Well, looking good, feeling good is important, of course. I mean, if you literally have spent £5 on a terrible website, doesn't matter how good your content is, because people just generally, they buy with their eyes as well as you read, but you look before you read. And I've seen so many blogs that literally they've just pasted the content, one big chunk of, no one's going to read that. It doesn't matter how good it is. No. So you've got to pay attention to how visually things look. But there is a fine balance between, being the best looking website out there with something that is also functional, with something that reads well, with something that's maintained and it's alive. Again, if you have big budgets and if you can invest thousands and thousands in having it all, great. But if you don't, then you have to balance things and not just checking everything towards one aspect of it. It needs to kind of all work together.
Okay, let me ask you a zinger then, Nelly. What's the right amount that an agent should be thinking about spending on a website to get a top-class website? What should they have in their mind to spend? So
again, it really depends on how big they are. So that question the answer should be different if you're one brancher that covers, say, 1 to 3 locations. So then if you're a 20 branch agency and you want to cover 60 locations, because there's so much more work and functionality, etc. So it's really down to the aspiration of the business. Our websites start from £1,500 setup and £150 per month, which includes support and maintenance. Roughly for an established business with optimization, because we create a lot of copy as well, specific pages, we have specific structure, everything is with marketing in mind. Roughly, if you're investing in a marketing ready website, you're probably more towards the £5,000 to £8,000 mark. If you want a bespoke website, you're probably looking 10, 15,000 and up.
So those, on the face of it, those sound biggish figures, but actually, for what is the most prominent digital marketing tool you have, that is 24/7, 365, that is viewed more than anything else, you're not going to get a better ROI on anything else you do, are you?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you think about how much you pay for your rent for your office, and how many people actually visit your office versus how many people visit your website, I'm sure that your rent is a year. It's probably at least £20,000, right?
Nelly, I've always loved that analogy of comparing your website to an office. Seeing it in that respect, looking at the visitors it gets. If you can track the ROI, as you should, of course, be tracking the ROI. If you could attribute that just to the website, it would change business owners' views, wouldn't it, of that investment in the website overnight?
Yes, absolutely, very much. I mean, it's proven by the fact that there's so many agents now working from home, from serviced offices. They don't necessarily have the high street presence, and they're doing just as well as the ones that are having the high street presence from a business perspective. And the reason why is because the battle is not who is on the high street anymore. The battle is who is going to get the digital share of the market. And you'll find that the ones that are ranking for most of their locations, the ones that are doing the marketing on the channels where the personas are, where your customers are, the ones that are with the most touch points and automated marketing funnels, they're the ones that are scooping most of the business, because it's all about touch points as well. That's another aspect of it, where again, flexible websites like WordPress are really, really helpful, because things aren't linear. People don't just go to Google, do one search, click once and convert. That almost never happens. It's very, very rare. Typically, there are several touch points. So what you might do is you might Google, you might click here, you might click there. Then if people have remarketing, they'll start seeing your banner advertising, then they might click on that. Or maybe 3 days later, they'll see your post on Facebook, or maybe they will receive your email if they've signed up for something else. So all of those channels, they all work together. And the aim of all of this is to create that relationship with the brand. And so I spoke earlier about human-to-human relationship. Obviously, that goes when a negotiator is really in touch with someone specifically. But there is a relationship with the brand as well. And when you think of a brand, a estate agency brand, people tend to have an opinion of that brand for whatever reason. Maybe you like their colors or you don't like their colors. Maybe you've seen their boards way too many times, or you've heard things about them, whatever it might be. And so again, you have established brands and new businesses or businesses that are not so well known. That makes a massive difference as well. Established brands need to work not as hard to get the conversions when they do marketing campaigns, because people know them. And if there is a good positive trust already, it's just a case of taking it to the next step. Brands that are not so well known need to work twice as hard. So actually, you need to spend even more money than the brands that are known, contrary to what actually is happening, because there's a lot of smaller 1, 2, 3 branch agencies that are up against the bigger guys with much smaller budgets. And so that's a very, very hard game to win. So if you're going to win that game, you really need to pay more attention to being very specific to your area, specific to the personas you're looking to attract, specific to the content that you produce, that it's for the kind of customers that you're looking to attract, specific with the calls to action, with the nurturing systems. And that's the bit that the bigger guys are not very good at, because they're big, because they're looking at the bigger picture. They can't be so good at allocation.
They can't be nimble, they can't be focused, can they?
Yes, and that's exactly where the slightly smaller agents can win. But the problem is that they're not really paying attention to those things nearly as much as they should. So
talking about paying attention, which is something I've always struggled with. So I don't know of any other area of the business where you have such a powerful tool, a free tool like Google Analytics, that is largely, to many business owners, ignored to the degree that it is.
Yeah.
Do you get frustrated about that, or is that just a key part of what you're about then, is making sure that you are obviously using that tool to advise them accordingly of where to improve? Because it is fair to say, I mean, most of them know about Google Analytics and they might log in for numbers, but they don't use it, I don't think, in any real demonstrable sense, do they?
That's correct. And I think with Google Analytics, I suppose the good thing is that you have all kinds of different data, and the bad thing is that you have all kinds of different data.
Yes.
Because so much data is in many ways noise, and people really don't understand how to read this data, how to apply this data in what actually matters to them. And, they choose not to read the data at all at the end of it, because it's a little bit confusing. And the starting point shouldn't be, yes, I mean, the data is available and that's fine. The question is, what do you need to know? Why do you need to know that? And what are you going to do by knowing it, right? Yeah. So what do I need to know? Where is my traffic coming from? For example, if I find that 60% of my traffic comes from organic, what else do I need to know? Maybe. Do I need to know what pages generate the most of the traffic? Yes. And if I find a particular blog, I mean, just to give you an example, we have one client, one blog generated 11,500 visitors for the year. That's a lot of visitors from just one blog alone, right? Now, here is where Google Analytics plays a role. If we didn't look at Google Analytics and we didn't find that fact, we wouldn't know that this blog was so good and it ranks so well and it brings the traffic. Why does it matter? Because if we know that 11,500 people visited that blog in 1 year, then we can look at what calls to action do we need to put on that page to progress them. How is this helpful to the business, right? Yeah. Because essentially what you want is leads. You want to convert every visitor to your website to a potential lead, which then you can progress further. So this is why analytics is good, is that it gives you data which then should prompt some sort of action. We do a lot of conversion rate optimization type work. This is generally for established businesses that have 20,000 visitors or more, typically. And that is because when you have all that data, you kind of need to dissect it and work on it every month, a little bit at a time, so that it makes a bit more sense. You can't focus on everything all the time. And what I would advise is a very bare minimum for agents to set goals, at the very least in analytics. Think about what you want to track and set it as a goal within your analytics, so that when you log into your account, you can at least look at how many goal conversions you've had each month. At least that's a more basic thing that will be helpful.
So you mentioned leads there. What should agents' view be on leads? Because there's clearly a variety of different types of leads, aren't there? And
Yes.
I've made myself pretty unpopular with agents over the years by telling them they're not short of leads. You know, they've really struggled with the ability to deal with the numbers of leads and to prioritize the hottest leads that they need to deal with.
Yes.
How do you advise agents to do they have a one-size-fits-all response to leads, or do you recommend actually a different approach based on where they've come from?
Well, first of all, yeah, there are different types of leads. You can divide them into cold, warm, and hot leads, for example. But this is where a good marketing campaign could complement the sales activity. So, you know, if you have 10 negotiators on board, there's only so many hours in the day, and there's so many conversations those negotiators can have in every given day. So, you know, if you're using instant valuation tool and you generate 400 new requests, for example, for the month, do you expect that your negotiators jump on the phone to all of those 400, or do you expect that your email nurturing system kicks in and actually warms those leads for you? Your remarketing kicks in and actually works as well. Yeah, all your other marketing activity is actually helping towards. And in my view, this is where sales with estate agents is not meeting marketing in the right way. Sales and marketing need to work together, not against one another. And I think at the moment there's a little bit a fight between the two. Yeah. And so, yeah, marketing is there to work on those leads automatically in the background and to warm them up. So to attract the leads, to warm them up. And then when they're warm, this is when you need to be having the sales conversations. There's no point talking to someone in the research phase who is considering moving but is not quite sure yet, and you calling them and saying, do you want to book a valuation? Shall I come to your house? No, you know, go away. I'm not ready yet. Leave me alone. Right? So you gotta understand the journey as well and kind of utilize your resources. So you're better off having your negotiators hitting the phones and working on the hot leads and having your marketing working on the cold leads.
I think that you're absolutely spot on there in terms of that. Salespeople need to understand, just because a lead might not be transacting in the next few weeks, it is not a tire kicker.
Yes.
Just a different stage of the evolution of that lead. And as you said, fine, understand that. And this is the most important thing is, yes, don't just drop it completely. Make sure that it is being nurtured by the EDM or the digital marketing or whatever it is, to show that they still know that you are the brand that when they're ready, they need to come back to.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And the thing is, technology has progressed so much now, so there is no excuse, really. Because if you think about it, how much have the CRM systems changed over the years? There's so much a CRM does now that hasn't done in the past, that I know of agents who have less people doing the work they used to do a few years ago manually. Right, so it saved several salaries in some organizations as a result of that. Now, obviously, websites have changed, technology has changed, the way people communicate has changed. Probably many agents now use Zoom for a lot of their calls, and you know, you have even the likes of WhatsApp that makes it easier to progress some relationships going forward. So I think that you don't need constantly to hire new people when you're looking to grow. What you probably need is to invest into your processes and your systems, and ensuring that you have a structured marketing campaign that sort of runs on autopilot in the background, so that you can focus on the leads that matter the most, rather than wasting those people's time on people who are not quite ready yet.
Yeah. You know, you talk about how it changed. I mean, the first major thing is, the fact they're called CRM systems these days, you know, they were just estate agency software, weren't they? So as that functionality has changed over the years, they've evolved into those CRM systems, haven't they? Is the first
Yes.
and most predictable thing. How important is the relationship that you have, Nelly, at Art Division with the CRM companies? I imagine you would have a closer relationship with some than others? Is it vital that you have a tight integration? How does that core kind of relationship, which for most agents would be their two main partners, need to be?
To be fair, yes, obviously we work with quite a few CRM providers. The big ones, the usual Repeat and Alto and Jupix and all the rest of them. But it's mostly to do with integration of the feed that comes from the CRM into the website, and that's more of a technical relationship. Marketing-wise, I still think that there is a lot to be done from the CRM provider's point of view to allow integration within marketing.
Genuine two-way integration.
Two ways, yeah. They seem to be only a one-way thing with them, not a two-way thing.
No,
I'm now starting to see change. So, for example, not too long ago, integrated a booking, a viewing form within a website that was the code was provided by the CRM provider. So then the booking goes directly into the CRM calendar. But not many CRM providers are giving that functionality, and yet you think that it's probably one of the most basic of basic things that they should be providing. So a lot of them are still playing catch up, to be fair. And I think with quite a few of them that have started a long time ago, there's a lot of legacy code. So for them, it's probably a lot harder to update all of this. You're now seeing new players on the market that have coded their systems with marketing in mind. So, it's interesting to see where that's going to go. But like with everything, it's never going to stop, right? We're always moving forward. We're not moving backwards. There's always going to be things to fix. And I think that probably the relationship will become closer and closer going forward as they start creating those sort of API options of integration. At the moment, it seems that the marketing is kind of done here and the sales is done here with a very tiny little bit of a connection in the middle. And often that connection is they receive the email inquiry, someone manually puts that contact details into the CRM, and then the sales process starts.
And exactly the same way as it was in the past, sales and lettings were over here, weren't they?
Yes.
And they need to work together. That's exactly how the website and the CRM should go forwards with, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So Nelly, let's just go back, because I'm keen, obviously it's the 20-year angle I'm really keen at here.
Yes.
I want to just get an idea. What was it about estate agent that made you think, you could have done any industry you wanted to back then? What was it that made you think this is the one for me? Because famously, some of them can be, and I'm a bit cheeky here, can be a little bit high maintenance.
Yes, that's true. They can be. Lots of them that are lovely as well. And I mean, to be fair, I think first of all, it all started by us getting an estate agency client. And then this kind of gave us an insight as to what it's like to do marketing for the property sector. From that one client, we then got another. Then from there, we got another. And then when we accumulated 3 or 4 estate agents, and we started learning more about the market, we thought this is actually a market that we like to learn more about. I mean, I personally have passion about the property market anyway. So I've done refurbishment projects in the past. I'm the one that watches all those programs, location, all the rest of them. But also I'm a landlord, so I have bought enough sold properties and, building a portfolio and all the rest of it. So I also have experienced the pain points of being a landlord using letting agents. So I know from that point of view as well. And I have that kind of personal passion with the property. And obviously the people that we attract, the people that join our division, know that we specialize in property, so they come because they have either interest or passion in property, and so the two kind of work hand in hand. But to be fair, it wasn't a planned decision to go and work with estate agents. It kind of happened, and we concluded that actually that's something we would like to do more of. And to be fair, I haven't looked back. In fact, a few years ago, we took a decision to predominantly work with estate agents. We do have some clients that are within the property sector that are not estate agents, they're suppliers to the industry, but our core focus is estate agents. And I think one of the main reasons is because we now know the market inside out, and we feel we can add a lot more value, not just because we know marketing, but because we know the property sector.
That's hugely important, isn't it? Because then you've got niche specialisation, which of course is what everyone's looking for, isn't it? And tell me, Nelly. So, in terms of why would agents choose you guys as a supplier for the marketing and website, other than that specialist knowledge and everything else? What else is it that Art Division offer that that really pleases its clients?
Well, first of all, we deliver results. Obviously, I'm bound to say that. It's really hard to talk about yourself, isn't it, in that respect? But we really specialize in the independent agents, and why agents choose to work with us is because they feel that we are a partner of theirs, and we would work with them to grow their business. So typically our clients are with 1 to sort of 10 branches, that sort of size, that are looking to grow and need help by someone who understands their industry and understands marketing, and they're not at the level where they can hire an in-house team with all the skills. Generally that happens from sort of 10 branch or more. I mean, to be fair, I have spoken with agents that have 100 branches with no proper internal marketing department, so it's not necessarily true that they all have all the skills in-house. But what with us is we really enjoy taking a business that has the flexibility to make changes quickly, which is on that level, because when we implement all the changes from a marketing point of view, we tend to get very quick results, and the benefit their end seems to be far more than once you start working for the slightly bigger guys. I guess it's the fact that a lot of our clients are seeing us as partners and are trusting in us to help them grow. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you wouldn't do the hard sell for yourself, but I'm going to, because we're going to talk in a minute about your 20th anniversary special offer, which is fantastic. But I think, you've heard Nelly talk today, and I'm just very conscious we've hit an hour. I could go on for hours and hours, but it's probably not fair on you or the public if we carried on doing that. But you've built over 1,000 websites, haven't you, in those 20 years? Managed, I think you're right in saying the stats were you've managed over £1 million worth of advertising spend. So it's fair to say you've got a fair bit of experience there. And then driven over 50 million visitors to those various websites. So there's your social proof, is what I'm saying, basically. On top of the all 5-star reviews you've got on, obviously, the wonderful website itself.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, from an experience point of view, we have done lots of things, and there's not much that we haven't done. And I guess we're leveraging on that experience and trial and error, and we see what works, and we can apply it across all of our clients. But being that we're 20 this year, we kind of felt that we need to offer something that is kind of playing on the 20 again. So we're basically offering 20 clients on a first come, first serve basis, 20% more for free when you buy one of our marketing ready WordPress, mobile responsive, fast loading websites. And our sites, they start from £1,500, which is our base package, and we offer a variety of different add-ons. So obviously, if you want to add pages that are optimized for ranking for certain things, and there's tons of stuff, functionality and all kinds of things like that, obviously you can build upon it. So if anyone is interested, we're offering free website demo appointments, so we can show examples of how things work. But yes, we are offering 20% extra for free on the base package for the next 12 months.
I know out there in property world, you're seeing discounts here, but this is a genuinely exclusive offer. As Nelly has just said, it's 20% off, and it's for only the first 20. So don't waste your time. Just have that initial conversation with Nelly as quickly as possible. Because Nelly, just to finish on, I'm guessing that this last year in lockdown and everything else, with its total switch towards digital being the main place, has made many agents realise that their websites just weren't up to scratch weren't up to muster, were they? So
Yes.
it must be quite a good time. Okay, they've been on the back of this busiest market ever, but now's the time to start thinking about what they're going to do next as things start to dry up.
Well, to be fair, the best time to start thinking about it was yesterday. But if yesterday can happen again, then now is definitely a good time. The thing is, digital is here to stay. That's the future. So you can't avoid it. You can ditch your office, but you can't ditch your website going forward. And that's the reality of it. The question is, are you planning for growth or are you not? So if you're happy where you are and you want to stay where you are, then that's fine. But if you want to move forward, if you want to grow, if you want to attract more customers, be that vendors, landlords, even buyers or tenants or investors, then you got to plan with that in mind. And this is where the product that we've put together, which is a very unique product, it's not something that's available that I'm aware of by anyone else on the market. It's let's label it as a hybrid offer in estate agency terms. But basically, we have built a core which we personalize for clients. So we save, and the reason why our starting price is so low, it's not because our websites are templates. We don't sell template websites. We have a core functionality which we install, and that gives us a 70% of the work pre-done, and then we need to just do the 30% left to finish the site off. That saves a lot of time.
That's the best of both, isn't it?
Which then obviously saves a lot of money from an agent's point of view. So whereas before a site would take us 3 to 4 months at least from a building point of view, and weeks and weeks and weeks of work, we can turn around a site within 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And most of the time, the reason why it's 6 weeks is not because of coding, but because we're waiting for the client to provide the copy. So it's much faster. As a result of that, there is a saving, which we're then obviously passing on to the client. And the saving that they have, they can invest in their marketing. Yeah. So that's the thinking here, get a site that is fit for marketing and for growth. And at the same time, the saving that you have put into marketing to generate more traffic to the site, start converting more.
Perfect. Well, look, I've just put the website up again there as well. Just scrolling down here, there's a supplier video, which again gives a really nice overview of why they should work with you guys, which I think is really nice. It's a lovely way of demonstrating it. I've also just popped the URL for another of your videos as well that gives some context about the business there, Nelly. So
thank you very much, Simon.
Obviously, anyone get in contact with her, there's a contact us button, obviously, on the art division page on there, where you can find Nelly on the normal places on social media, on their own website, and just obviously make sure you mention that you've come via Kerfuffle to get that top 20 deal as well. Nelly, thanks again. I always feel like I've learned a little bit much more, which is pretty important on a daily basis. So congratulations on your 20th, and look forward to your 30th in a few years' time.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon.
Thanks. Actually, Paul has just highlighted to me, which I should just pop up on here. Thank you, Paul, for that reminder. Nelly is going to be helping us out with on our campus training platform. You've heard the knowledge and that she's got to impart here. So in a very non-salesy point of way, giving some pointers there. So anyone's interested in that and you want more of today, please get in contact. So Nelly, can't wait to see those. But for the best for now, go and enjoy your birthday cake.
Yes, thank you very much. All the best. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.